So welcome to a new video, and today's video we're looking into the future. We're looking at what will F1 look like in 15 years. We're going to go through every season from 2023 all the way past the 2020s into the 2030s to the year 2038 to see where everyone is at. Obviously we'll have some younger drivers come through, some different teams come in and out. The teams I've kept realistic. I've tried to keep the driver moves realistic. I mean, to the best that I could. I'm really not sure who would go anywhere, but these are my best sort of guesses really for what F1 will look like in 15 years time. So 2023 we'll talk about quickly. Max Verstappen wins the World Championship, fairly straightforward Red Bull Constructors. Now 2024, again Max Verstappen wins the World Championship with Red Bull as the Constructors again, his fourth in a row that would be, and yeah, pretty unstoppable at the moment. Now we are getting on to 2025, and in 2025 we are welcoming 3 new teams. So 2025 is sort of the FIA and F1's plan to allow some new teams into Formula 1. And I think this specifically will be when AlphaTauri decide, Red Bull decide that AlphaTauri will be no longer, and they sell. And I think it could be to Porsche. We've gone with the new team Porsche Honda, who are going to be joining in the 2025 season with a driver lineup pair of Pascal Wehrlein and Nick De Vries. So Nick De Vries they'd probably keep on, and Pascal Wehrlein from their Formula E team. So I think that makes sense. Yuki Tsunoda out of a spot. In 2025, the new team, the 11th team on the grid, is Andretti Cadillac, with their driver lineup pair of Daniel Ricciardo and Sergio Perez. Going into 2024-25, or into the 2025 season, we'll have some driver changes, driver transfers. So we have quite a few people leaving the sport, and those are Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Alonso and Hamilton. Hülkenberg, Alonso, Hamilton all retiring, and Tsunoda being replaced. I think due to probably poor performances, he will be replaced, and the fact that Porsche are coming in and they want to bring in Pascal Wehrlein, they'd probably pick Nick De Vries as a good way to start, or more experience at least. Anyway, so let's start with Red Bull. Sergio Perez has left Red Bull at the end of his contract, and he has decided to join the new Andretti team, and he is replaced by Briton Lando Norris. Now, we all know about the ties between Norris and Red Bull. There's a lot of links, and his contract ends in 2025, and I believe that would be the perfect time to let Perez go. He joins the new team on the grid with Daniel Ricciardo, and then, of course, Lando Norris fills that spot. Good relationship as well straight away for Red Bull and Andretti, which will also help out in the future, as we will see. Alonso leaving Aston Martin, pretty straightforward. He is replaced by Felipe Drugovich, obviously. Now, in terms of Norris's position, he is replaced by Pato O'Ward from obviously the IndyCar series over in America. I think that's a fair position. The Mexican comes in, and you may also be able to see that Lewis Hamilton is leaving Mercedes. Now, another McLaren driver, his contract ends in 2025, or at the start of the 2025 season. That is Oscar Piastri, and I think Oscar Piastri will be the one to replace Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes car. Oscar Piastri is then replaced by Alex Albon at McLaren, who is then replaced by Valtteri Bottas in the Williams seat, who eventually is replaced by Théo Pourchaire in the Alfa Romeo. Because of course it is Alfa Romeo for one more year in 2025 before it becomes the Audi team. So Hülkenberg leaving Haas opens the door for Fittipaldi to come in, and like we said, Tsunoda leaving opens the door for Pascal Wehrlein. Now, in the 2025 season that you're looking at now, we do have Audi on the right, but that's just because I got that wrong. I should say Alfa Romeo, because it still is Alfa Romeo in 2025, but we've put Audi in there for now, with Guan Yu Zhou and Théo Pourchaire. Doesn't really make much of a difference. But as you can see, the winner of the championship is Charles Leclerc. Ferrari win it. Finally, they win something. This won't be the only thing they win in this video, but they finally win the championship in 2025, constructors as well. Going into 2026, we have the Audi team coming in, and then our only driver move in 2025 is Pierre Gasly being let go by Alpine and being replaced, of course, by Jack Doohan. He really is the next in line to the throne at Alpine. So now we get ready to move on to 2026. Now in 2026 we have our full constructor now. Audi is in the sport now alongside Andretti and Porsche as the new boys. And as you can see, 2026 Charles Leclerc wins another title, but this time Mercedes win the Constructors' Championship. Clearly a good year for them. Oscar Piastri and George Russell performing well, and meaning they win the Constructors. So for our 2026 driver transfers, Carlos Sainz has left Ferrari. He's gone and he has been replaced by Théo Pourchaire, who is then replaced by Mick Schumacher in the Audi. Nick de Vries has left Porsche. He has been replaced by Red Bull youngster Iwasa. And then finally, Sergio Perez has left the sport. He's retired, and his Andretti seat is taken by American Colton Herta. Now into 2027, the World Championship. It seems to be going Mercedes' way, and it does again here with a 1-2. George Russell winning the championship with Oscar Piastri in second. Mercedes, they've got it right coming into the 2026 season. They've had the time to focus on it, where Red Bull and Ferrari were battling for the last few seasons. The regulation changes have gone in Mercedes' favour. George Russell wins his first championship, and we have no driver transfers. So straight into 2028, it's the same story. George Russell wins again. It's a bit more of a closer battle this time with Max Verstappen, but he gets through, wins the World Championship. And once again, we see no driver transfers. But we'll talk about the constructors quickly. As you may have been able to see, Williams have been slowly working their way up, doing really well, as well as Aston Martin, who have done quite well. Haas, Audi, Alpine, sort of the bottom teams, along with Porsche, the bottom four teams, but still kind of the midfield. My idea for this was to try and get everyone to sort of close up to each other, so it wasn't too much of a difference. So you may see one season Williams are like fourth, the next season it will be McLaren, the next season it will be Alpine, because that's what F1 want to do as a whole. So I tried to replicate that in this video, but I still think the top three will sort of remain as the top three. So into 2029, the third and final year with the same driver lineup all across the grid, and it is Max Verstappen back on top. He's managed to beat out the two Mercedes of Oscar Piastri and George Russell, with Lando Norris not too far behind, and then Leclerc not too far behind him. So it's very tight at the top, but it is Mercedes Red Bull sort of out in front, and it is Max once again in the lead. He wins his fifth championship and his first championship for around 5 years, I think, in this simulation. So it's been a long time coming for him. He's been waiting for it. He's finally got it back. He's won the championship. Red Bull win the constructors, and now we're on to some driver changes, with Magnussen and Fittipaldi leaving the sport in their out of their Haas cars to be replaced by Yuki Tsunoda and Oliver Biermann. Pascal Wehrlein is being replaced by another Ferrari youth driver, much like Biermann it is. But now Charles Leclerc's brother, Arthur Leclerc, joins the sport in the Porsche car. Bottas is being replaced by Jamie Chadwick, the British female driver, who a lot of people have touted to be in Formula 1 one day. I think she definitely could. No reason why not. And then Daniel Ricciardo, after some fantastic performances for Andretti, really getting them going at the start of their, lives as a Formula 1 team. Daniel Ricciardo and Colton Herta and Sergio Perez have been brilliant so far, and they've signed Dennis Hauger, the Red Bull junior driver. He looks very exciting. A lot of people excited for him. He definitely will be in Formula 1 one day. Hopefully it doesn't take as long as 2029, but if it does, we'll still be happy to see him. So Dennis Hauger joins the sport, as well as Biermann, Leclerc, Chadwick, and Tsunoda is back. Now we head to 2030, and a lot of people will be very happy to see this. Is Lando Norris takes the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi, wins the World Championship ahead of Oscar Piastri, the two former McLaren teammates, battling it out at the front of the grid for the championship, and it is Lando Norris who takes it in the Red Bull. Not a lot of changes, even though the new regulations came in. Haas have done a much better job. Yuki Tsunoda really performing well for them this season. Andretti have taken a bit of a step back. Dennis Hauger struggling to get going, but Colton Herta still sort of best of the rest, good performances. And that Williams as well. I mean, Logan Sargent, fantastic performances, but Jamie Chadwick just a little bit far behind on her debut season. Théo Pourchaire and Charles Leclerc get the business done to finish out that top six, which is now the firm top six with Daniel Ricciardo gone. That is the top six for now of the Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari drivers, and it is getting pretty tight at the bottom as well. We have some driver changes once again this season, with Esteban Ocon being let go from Alpine. Disappointing performances, especially this season. Jack Doohan up in 10th and Esteban Ocon down in 18th. He's done really poorly, and he is being replaced by another Alpine youngster, Victor Martins, or Victor Martin. I don't know how to say it, but I'm guessing Victor Martins. That's how I'm going to say it for the whole video. But he looks like a very good young driver. And guess who's back? Back again. Shady's back. No, it isn't. It's Carlos Sainz. He's back at Audi now. Well, not back at Audi, but he's back in F1 at Audi. Audi have said in real life that they want Carlos Sainz to be in their car. So I thought, why not? He'll come back to the sport. He's still young enough in 2030, 2031 to join the grid heading into the 2031 season, which is once again won by Lando Norris. The Red Bull winning it again, the exact same top three: Norris, Piastri, Verstappen. This time Williams get their car right, and Logan Sargent finishes an incredible 4th place, just ahead of Théo Pourchaire, then George Russell and Charles Leclerc, and Jamie Chadwick best of the rest, sort of 8th, with Jack Doohan just behind. Really good season for Williams, Mercedes, Red Bull, all of them do great. McLaren, a little bit disappointing. Albon and Pato O'Ward struggling this season. And Porsche had a very difficult year. Their youngsters not quite getting it right yet, but seemingly they just can't get the car right. Now onto our driver transfers ahead of the 2032 season. Zhou Guanyu has left the sport. He has been dropped by Audi. He is out, and he is being replaced by Pato O'Ward. He has left McLaren, as well as his teammate Alex Albon has left the sport. He's left McLaren. So McLaren are going with an all-rookie, all-new driver lineup of Richard Verschoor and Liam Lawson in the new season. And Lance Stroll has called it quits on his career. He has decided to step back and take over from his dad as the owner of the Aston Martin team and team principal, because why not? It's Lance Stroll, he can do whatever he wants. So he's taken over as team principal of the Aston Martin team and hired Frederick Vesti to take his place, the Mercedes junior driver, very good driver, and he is now in the sport, ready for the 2032 season, which is won by Max Verstappen. Dominant season by Red Bull. They were way out in front. Verstappen, Norris 1-2, and they finished the season there. Mercedes were pretty much just behind, but they just couldn't find the pace compared to the Red Bull, and also compared to Williams at times. Bit of a checkerboard. We have Mercedes, Williams, Mercedes, Ferrari, Williams and Ferrari. Jamie Chadwick getting the better of Théo Pourchaire, Russell gets the better of Leclerc, Piastri gets the better of Sargent. Another fantastic season for Williams. Andretti have a pretty good year in their battle for best of the rest against Andretti, with Colton Herta just winning out against Doohan and Hauger against Victor Martins, which gives Andretti best of the rest. Then we go 2x2 with the two Audis of Sainz and O'Ward, McLaren's Liam Lawson and Richard Verschoor, and then Aston Martin's Felipe Drugovich and Frederick Vesti. And then checkerboard again at the bottom with Haas, and Porsche. So big season that for Andretti to get themselves back to that best of the rest spot, or keep that best of the rest spot, I should say, and Red Bull win a dominant championship. Just before the 2033 season, Carlos Sainz has announced he is now officially retiring from Formula One. He's decided, now that is it now. I'm done. I'm not doing a Fernando Alonso and going until I'm 50. But I am out. And he has been replaced by Zane Maloney in that Audi car. Another young driver, I believe he's a Ferrari youngster. I'm probably wrong, it might be Red Bull, can't remember. Actually, I think he is Red Bull, yeah. Red Bull new junior driver Zane Maloney is joined for the 2033 grid. Oscar Piastri wins his first World Championship in the Mercedes, even though the picture has him in a Renault race suit. Ignore it. Oscar Piastri wins, and as you can see, a lot of X's on the screen there. There's a whole load of retirements in 2033, but we will get to those. Mercedes, very good. George Russell really struggling since his World Championships. He's kind of taken his eyes off the ball and is not doing as well as he should, but Red Bull take the constructors once again. Williams just beaten out by Ferrari for that third spot, but finished fourth with once again Andretti Cadillac best of the rest, ahead of Alpine and then Audi. Pato Ward with a good season, Zane Maloney just good enough to keep them there. McLaren again, pretty poor average season, 7th place. Aston Martin really dropping down with the new takeover of Lance Stroll of the team, and they really need to start improving before Haas come in once again second bottom, ahead of bottom place Porsche. Now let's talk driver transfers. This gets crazy. This is the silliest season ever. Silly. That's what they're going to call this across the board. Max Verstappen has retired from the sport for now, I guess. Might be back later. You'll have to wait and see. Max Verstappen is gone, and he is replaced at Red Bull by Dennis Hauger. Obviously, Red Bull junior driver has been doing incredibly well for Andretti, and they decided to bring him up to the big leagues. He's in that Red Bull now. And Dennis Hauger at Andretti is replaced by Oliver Biermann, who has only just joined Haas recently, but has now shown enough to be able to move up to that Andretti team. And then finally, Haas have replaced Oliver Biermann with Franco Colapinto, going ahead to the 2034 season. Now, at Red Bull, Lando Norris is gone. He has won his 2 championships a while ago. He's ready to move on with his life. He's decided to leave. So Red Bull, entirely new lineup here, and Lando Norris is replaced by Liam Lawson. He is left at McLaren, and then he is now to be replaced by Dino Beganovic. If you didn't see, won the first, was it F2 or F3? I think it might have been F3. He won the first F3 race of the season this weekend, so he looks pretty good. So he has now joined McLaren in this fake world that we're creating. And George Russell as well, another 2-time world champion. He is now gone from the sport, left Mercedes, and he is replaced by Logan Sargent of Williams, who is then replaced by Jack Doohan of Alpine. So that's a really good deal there for both teams, really. Jack Doohan has been doing fantastically well, best of the rest, and he has now joined the Williams team, and obviously Sargent joins the Mercedes, ready to get some proper race wins, fight for the title. And then finally, Jack Doohan is replaced by Nikola Solov, another real-life Alpine junior driver who looks fairly decent. And Jamie Chadwick has decided to go back to IndyCar, fight for her championship again. She has been replaced by Frederick Vesti, and then obviously he was at Aston Martin, and now Frederick Vesti is replaced by Sebastian Montoya. And finally, the big one, a lot of people are going to cry about this, Charles Leclerc has left Ferrari, has left the sport, but he is replaced by his brother Leclerc. So he joins Ferrari now, and then the other Leclerc, Arthur Leclerc, is replaced by Gabriele Mini, another F3 driver. So thank my lucky stars, there's no driver transfers to confuse me in the 2034 season, but it is a new team replacing Haas, well, half replacing Haas, I guess, is the Ford Jaguar Haas team. Ford, a few years ago, left Red Bull to pursue their own Formula One venture, and now they are here alongside Haas with Yuki Tsunoda and, of course, Franco Colapinto, who've joined in the new season. So yeah, very interesting. New team. I like Ford. I kind of have to. My dad used to work there, so Ford Haas in. Very happy for the 2034 season, but not for them. They finished rock bottom, pretty terrible. Mainly because of Yuki Tsunoda's performances not really matching up to Franco Colapinto. But one man who is seemingly not going to be able to be stopped That's Oscar Piastri, who wins his second World Championship in a row in that Mercedes, just ahead of teammate Logan Sargent. There's a big gap forming at the moment between Red Bull and between Mercedes, then Ferrari, Red Bull, Williams in terms of the championship battle. But Theo Pourchaire very well to finish third, ahead of Dennis Hauger, then Jack Doohan, Arthur Leclerc, and then Liam Lawson and Frederick Vesti. So very interesting. Again, bottom not really changing, but the midfield definitely. Andretti falling off massively away from best of the rest to be replaced by McLaren, Aston Martin and Alpine. They seemingly weren't even in the battle, because it's very much checkerboard between the Alpines, Aston Martin and McLaren's the best of the rest, and then the Andretti's come after. So they have a very difficult season in 2034, but no driver changes ahead of the 2035 season. 2035, and this Australian magician does it again. What a season for Oscar Piastri. He wins his third World Championship in a row, and really proving how good he is. And you might be able to see on the right, we've had some new changes. Haas are now fully gone. It's now fully for Jaguar. It's now Sauber Audi. Sauber have come back in to help out with the Audi team. Porsche, Honda, we already knew that, they're still the same. Chrome, McLaren, Chrome now title sponsors of the McLaren team. Andretti are no more Andretti Cadillac, they are now GM Andretti, General Motors, who are the owners of Cadillac, but now they are the full-on title sponsor team of the Andretti F1 team. So it's General Motors Andretti, still got Oracle Red Bull and Scuderia Ferrari, so it's not even really a thing, but just Scuderia Ferrari sounds cool. And then Renault, Alpine have gone. They have been turned back into Renault ahead of the 2036 season, while we're in the 2035 season actually. Then Golf Williams, of course, still Golf Williams. And then, as you may be able to see, BWT Racing Point. So Aston Martin left the sport in 2035. New regulation changes at the start of the season meant that they didn't really want to spend the money on it. So Lance Stroll had to pull out his billions of pounds from his pocket, put it on the table, and rename them back to Racing Point. The Pink Panthers are back. And BWT left Renault after Alpine had been shut down and joined back up with Racing Point, and they had an amazing season. It was called the Mercedes 2.0 once again, but they somehow came second in the championship due to incredible performances by Felipe Drugovich and Sebastian Montoya, who both look like really top drivers. But once again, it was Oscar Piastri just too far ahead, and then Jack Doohan in second. It was pretty close between those two and Felipe Drugovich for the championship, but in the end, he was just too good. Oscar Piastri, once again, champion of the world. Difficult season for Sauber Audi and Ford Jaguar, and even Porsche Honda, just right at the bottom. McLaren, disappointing for them after such a promising season before, but these regulation changes are meant to change things up, and they certainly did that. Heading into 2036, we have some more driver transfers. Felipe Drugovich has left the sport. He had a great final year, but he has moved on now since BWT Racing Point seem to have a title-winning car. They have replaced him. Maybe wanted to get rid of him, who knows? But Arthur Leclerc has left Ferrari, and he has now joined up with the Racing Point team. And then at Ferrari, he has been replaced by Franco Colapinto, who had a pretty decent season for Ford Jaguar, and especially the fact he's beaten out Yuki Tsunoda twice in a row now. And then Franco Colapinto is replaced by Paul Aron, another F3 driver. And then once again, Yuki Tsunoda is out of the sport again. He's in and out all the time. But he has been replaced by Zach O'Sullivan. And then Colton Herta has left Andretti. He has been replaced by Gabriele Mini from Porsche Honda, who is then being replaced by Josep Maria Marti. And finally, Pato O'Ward has left the sport as well, and he is being replaced by Enzo Fittipaldi, who joins the sport for the new season. Now into 2036, and these regulation changes from 2035 have had a massive impact this year. Some teams have been able to really get the most out of the car, and some really haven't. Red Bull falling all the way down to 6th in the championship. Really poor for them. Scuderia Ferrari, though, they've won a championship. They're back on top, Matteo Porcher wins his first World Championship title, just ahead of Sebastian Montoya and Oscar Piastri. But yeah, once again dominant by Ferrari for the first time in about 10 years. Just ahead of Mercedes, who are pretty neck and neck with Williams for most of the season, and then Racing Point just beneath, but difficult season for Arthur Leclerc. Renault had a great season once again, they're back up to sort of best of the rest. But yeah, Oracle Red Bull, difficult season for them. Now, you may be able to see an X next to Sauber Audi's name, and that is because they are gone. They have been fully replaced in the new season. Sauber Audi are out, and in come new team for the season, Prima Lamborghini, with an entirely new driver lineup. Zane Maloney keeps his place, but Enzo Fittipaldi, after only 1 year, is out of the sport and is replaced by Brit Christian Mansell. And obviously, he is the son of legendary Formula One driver Nigel Mansell, the absolutely beautiful moustache he had in his Williams. But yes, the new Lamborghini team looking nice. All these designs, by the way, thank you to the actual designers, because I have zero talent and would not be able to actually do these. Yeah, they can all be they can all be found on Race Department. Now on to 2037. Once again, Red Bull struggling. Ferrari doing brilliantly. Matteo Porcher wins his second World Championship in a row, but this one was much more dominant for the Scuderia, with Franco Colapinto coming in just behind, second place to finish. Second. Oscar Piastri finishes third, decent for the legend of the sport by this point, and I believe him and Logan Sargent are the only two drivers still in Formula One at this point that are in Formula One as we speak. So very cool to see them there. Renault, decent season once again, sort of best of the rest behind the 4 title challenges. Prima Lamborghini straight into the sport and straight to the bottom. Difficult season for them. One driver change, Liam Lawson has left Formula One, or more been kicked out of Formula One after a disappointing season, not been able to get that Red Bull higher than he did. Pretty disappointing. Really, Red Bull should be above Renault. I don't know why they're not, but yeah, they should have been up a little bit higher, but he just couldn't been able to get it. So he's been replaced for the new season. I wonder if you can guess who it might be. Is Max Verstappen. Yeah, Max Verstappen returns for 2038 in incredible fashion, decides, hey, I'm going to come back and help you build a better car. And boy, do they build a better car, because we go into 2038, our final year, and it's a Red Bull 1-2. Red Bull win the championship, with Dennis Hauger taking the Driver World Championship, Max Verstappen coming runner-up, just ahead of Jack Doohan, Porcher, and then Frederick Vesti. So Williams coming second in the championship. They were sort of the best team not to actually win a championship. They were always up there at the top, but just still haven't been able to really put that car at the front of the grid yet. Maybe they need to sign Christian Mansell. He might be able to channel his father's energy and do it for them. Who knows? But yeah, Dennis Hauger wins the 2038 World Championship. And that is it. We are out now. 15 years in the future, all these drivers are like 33, 34. So I have no idea who any of the youngsters are going to be coming through after this, but I'm sure that will not be the championship table in 2038. But let's have a little look at the recap. 15 years later, Drivers' World Championships since 2023, of course. We have Max Verstappen with 4, Oscar Piastri 3, Leclerc, Russell, Porcher and Norris all with 2, and of course Dennis Hauger winning 1 World Championship. And then the Constructors, Red Bull winning 7 Constructors titles, Mercedes with 6, and the Scuderia Ferrari with only 3. So yeah, there we go. 15 years in the future, what F1 may look like, what teams, what drivers. It's all very interesting. All very fun, and it took me way too long to research all of this and find out who actually might be in Formula One. I thought about keeping Fernando Alonso in it the entire time. I thought, I don't know, I don't think he'll be driving when he's 70, so we'll maybe leave him out for now. But yeah, I could very well see Fernando Alonso still driving in 2038. That would not surprise me at all. But yeah, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this, because it took me way longer than it should have done. Yeah, it took way too much time with this. I put way too much effort in, but still, it was fun to do. So yeah, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed overall. Like, subscribe if you did, all that jazz, and have a great rest of your week, and see you soon.